Hello, 8th graders. This is the video for recapping the reading from Sherlock Holmes. You had to read pages 1 through 3 in this new story, The Adventure of the Second Man. And after you've completed that reading, that's when you should be watching this video. So this is another Sherlock Holmes story, another mystery that we'll read in the course of about a week. And there's lots of good stuff for you, lots of surprises, lots of Sherlock Holmes deductions that you get to enjoy. So let's dive right into it. We hear first off from Watson that he's been looking through these papers and he thinks back to the event of this guy, Roylotts. The Roylotts family, Grimsby Roylotts, is the person who has died. And he says, I need to set the record straight and get the truth about Roylotts out there so that all these rumors can be dispelled. Now, he says that he wasn't allowed to say this because he had pledged to someone that he wouldn't, but that person has now died, and so the time is right for the telling of this mystery. Going on, we have the account starting at 1883 in April. One morning he was rudely awoken by Sherlock Holmes at 7 in the morning. So he's met with this frantic woman knocking at their door asking for help. And Sherlock says, I will give you a nice cup of hot coffee to warm you up. And she says, no, it's not cold which makes me shiver, which is quite a line. She's basically saying, it's fear, Mr. Holmes, that's making me shiver. I'm not cold, but I'm just so dreadfully afraid of what's happening. Now, who is this woman? Well, her name is Miss Stoner, Miss Helen Stoner, and she comes from this family, the Roylotts family. But her last name is Stoner because she's not related to the Roylotts family, but this man, Grimsby Roylotts, has married her mother. So that's his, he would be her stepfather then. And he's a bit mysterious to her. She doesn't know a lot about his character because he lived in India for a long time as a doctor before marrying into their family. But after a while, after the death of her mother, they go back to England to live on the family estate. And it says there was £1,000 left in an annual income. So that's quite a nice living to go off of. And that's forwarded on to the rest of them. So her sister Julia, and their stepfather are living off the money that their mother left them with when she died in an accident. They're living in London, in this town called Surrey. That's the setting of this place. And there's one condition that happens in the will, meaning for this £1,000. She said if these girls get married, then a good portion of that money is going to be forwarded on to them and their new husband, whoever that may be. So that's kind of the family setup. But let's talk a little bit more about this Grimsby Roylotts, because he's going to be a central figure in the story. So he lived in India for a while, and he kind of took on some of the ways of the people in India, meaning he took back some exotic pets, a cheetah, and what was the other one? A baboon. So he took back those pets. He also is culturally a little different than the English folk, and he is most closely allied with gypsies, meaning wandering bands of people rather than settled people in cottages and nice homes. He more likes to hang out with the gypsies and play music with them and walk around with them, live in tents. He also mentions, or it's also mentioned, that he has a really bad temper, and that it even led to him murdering one of the butlers that he had in India at the time. So this guy has blood on his hands already, and this is just the backstory. So we're supposed to see this guy as a criminal and an angry man with a temper and a little bit exotic in some ways. Other things that we should touch on in this is at the end, so page 3, that's how far you got to, she starts getting into the reason that she's so stressed out right now, and it's because her life is bearing a lot of correspondences, maybe coincidences, but maybe not, to her sister's life. And what happened to her sister? Well, she mysteriously died. They don't know exactly how Julia, her sister, her twin sister, died, but it happened about 2 years ago. And there was an exchange that she had with her sister right before her sister's death, where she said, her sister asked her, Helen, "Tell me, Helen, have you ever heard anyone whistle in the dead of the night?" "Never," said I. "I suppose you could not possibly whistle yourself in your sleep?" "Certainly not. But why?" "Because during the last few nights I have always about 3 in the morning heard a low, clear whistle. I am a light sleeper, and it has awakened me. I cannot tell where it came from, perhaps from the next room, perhaps from the lawn. I thought that I would just ask you whether you had heard it." "No, it must be those wretched gypsies in the plantation." "Very likely, and yet if it were on the lawn, I wonder that you did not hear it also." "Ah, but I sleep more heavily than you." So it goes on and on. She can't figure out what this whistle noise is. She's wondering why her sister right next door in the room next door doesn't hear it as well, and it's starting to drive her crazy. And then they lock their rooms, and she's very clear about this, that the room was locked. And just after that, there is this terrifying scream, and it's quite dramatic. It says, "Even above the hubbub of the gale," meaning above all the noise that was being made outside, "there burst forth the wild scream of a terrified woman. I knew that it was my sister's voice. I sprang from my bed, wrapped a shawl around me, and rushed into the corridor. As I opened my door, I seemed to hear a low whistle, such as my sister described, and a few moments later a clanging sound as if a mass of metal had fallen." And then she's going to find her sister. But that's all that we read for today. So I left you at a cliffhanger. Next time we have class, we'll read the next 3 pages. But you've done quite enough for today, so I'm going to let you go. All right. This is part 1 of The Adventure of the Speckled Band.